And our guest today is Dr. John R. Hewson. I've been torturing myself today for days wondering what that R stands for. I thought maybe
reprobate.
Well, I was thinking that would be like rugged, roguishly handsome, radiant.
No, reprobate.
But it came to me on the drive over here today. R is for Renaissance man. This man does He is a critical care healthcare legend. He's a musician, a brilliant musician. He is a great champion for literacy, and he's an amazing author as well. All of his interests come together in this wonderful novel, Corbett's Daughter. Music, medicine, murder, all the stuff John is saying. And we're really honored and really thrilled that John has elected to launch the book here and to be in his bask in his incredible company today. Everyone, Dr. John R. Hewson.
I am really honored to be here for this. As some of you know, I teach adult literacy next door at the Literacy South Halton offices in the next building. So at the end of a joyous session, I often come in here and just look around and breathe deeply. It just relaxes me. It's just gorgeous. There's nothing to me nicer than books. When I die, my poor children, if they are tasked with dealing with the remains, what will they do with those tons of books? I can't get rid of them. It's like killing somebody. I can't. To me, it's... So anyway, how did I get into doing this? Well, I guess the first comment I could make is a fair number of physicians over the years have gotten into writing. Why? I'll name a name or two. Chekhov, pardon this every now and then, let this applaud, right? Chekhov, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Somerset Maugham, our Somerset Maugham. He wrote largely in the 30s. His first one was of human bondage. He was a physician practicing in the poor parts of London at the time. Human bondage.
Sorry to interrupt, John.
Yes.
I think you're out of the sight line of the...
Well, I'm trying to save the camera from having a lens rupture.
But you're blocking right, John.
I apologize, camera.
Anyway, I just can't see you behind the pole, so.
He managed to bring to the non-medical person understanding of what it must have been like at that time to be poverty-stricken in London. And London, England, being middle class ridden even than we are here, it was almost stylish to not care about the poor, except for those good people who did it in the noblesse oblige way, but in that de haut en bas manner, which was still insulting to those having to receive that care, because it wasn't given with love, it was given with a sense of, oh, we must do this, but it isn't really such a, I don't want to be in the room with you, but I guess I do have to help you. And that's so terrible. And that's what you see even when people are doing good things. That's so often what you see in a structured society. That it's done with a sense of nobility versus slug, you know, whatever metaphor you want to use for the person whom you are helping. So with that kind of thing, I guess, how did I get here? Well, let me share. The first time I ever wrote anything in prose that was not related to science, except for high school essays that one has to do, was about a month after my father died in the mid-80s. And I found myself one afternoon, my dad was a superb dad. He was a high school teacher, principal, taught math, history, languages, them all. He was such a good teacher. This is in the 40s and 50s, inter, pre, and post-war. Students, grade 10 and 11, students would come over on the Saturday to sit on the front steps to discuss life with my dad. They'd go to visit the teacher on the weekend. And that's the kind of guy he was. And obviously I was in substantially when he died. And I found myself, for the first time in my life, writing a vignette. And it was of me as an 8-year-old out in the canoe with my dad, as we would do in the summer times when we had a little bit of time off. And at dusk and all those nice things. Like from Magog in Quebec. that's where it started, and I enjoyed the process so much that in fact I continue to weave, in essence, a full sort of a novel out of that vignette, but that's how I got into it. And I realized I had intuitively done what you will find as a component within this novel. The importance or the success or the efficacy of when you find yourself in bad times, in fact, sit down and write about it. The act of writing about it causes you to begin to understand who you are and where you are. It's almost like sitting at a typewriter keyboard, with a computer, and it's magic. You just watch the words appear. You're not even aware of putting them in. They're there, and then you look at those words, and my God, that's what was up here, and look what comes out. It was in there, but it doesn't come out unless you actually do the writing. And I found that with my dad's death, and it struck me so strongly, and I kept on writing, that it became one of the two major themes within the book, and that is the postal code sorting out of the mail in your life, to use a very awkward metaphor. It's the worst metaphor I've come up with in the last half hour. I promise to do worse, though, so don't worry. Yeah. And it plays a role in the straightening of the life of Corbett, who is sort of very much central, and things about him and his daughter. The other main theme in this, it occurred to me, all right, start again. I've parented in 4 different ways. Biologically, I have 1 son. Through adoption, I have 1 son. Through fostering, I had a brother and a sister, Chinese extraction from Montreal, whose family had fallen apart, and I played dad with those for about 2 years. The dad every weekend would come with tears in his eyes to visit his own daughters. They were lovely children. The younger one of the 2 was almost completely deaf. So she had, in those days, technology, this is the early 70s, obviously technology wasn't as good. There weren't cochlear implants and stuff as there are now. But just charming, lovely children. And then the 4th way is as a step-parent. So I've sort of been around the block, and what began to strike me, I began to ask myself if I had been bad. Had I been bad because I loved the 5 of them equally? Had I been bad because I failed to follow the biological imperative that is in every single organism on this earth, and that is that one cares for one's own genes, because that is self. Our immortality lies through our genes not dying but living, 50% of them in your child, 25% of them in your grandchildren, 12.5% in your great-grandchild, but that's how one lives on. And it's not a conscious thing. A lizard doesn't think about caring for the eggs, or mother turtle putting them in the right place so that when they hatch out, they'll all scramble down to the water rather than being 16 miles inland. But it's wired into every organism. It is so wired in, if you take a look at the history of what goes on in a lion pride, there's always fighting for the alpha male dominance. If a younger alpha comes and disposes or displaces the older alpha, that younger alpha male gets the alpha female as the spoils of war. If there are lion cubs with that female that were sired by the male he just beat, kills them right off the spot. And this is not all that unique. This is the law of the genetic jungle, and we are wired to do that. Now, we don't murder, but think how many fairy tales there are of the wicked stepmother. Cinderella. Poor Ella sits behind the fireplace and does all the grunt work and dirty work, while the 3 lovely daughters routinely go to the ball. And if you go through the lore of Europe, I can't speak for Asia or the Middle East or for Africa. I suspect there are similarities because we are not that different no matter where you look. The step-parent is often a villain. Why? Because a step-parent often is a villain. the stepchild. Why? Because that stepchild is taking attention, energy, and money away from what could have been spent on this parent's own genes. Look at the lengths in which some societies will go to attempt to ensure, on the husband's side now, that the husband is not cuckolded. Now, that's not just a matter of sort of social custom and sex. That is the issue of spending or not spending your resources to raise, nurture, and bring to adulthood successfully genes that are not your own. You see this in birds, you see the same thing. And I'm trying to remember which. There's a species of wren that when the male is not quite close enough to see in its mating season, the female will run off and find another male that likely has better genes. Now, humans, that's genes with a G, not a J. Designer genes, yeah. We have put around these behaviors a social and a theological construct, a morality construct. Let me step back for a second and make the following suggestion. Intelligent behavior suggests that each individual, male or female, will want to find the best opposite that they can, so that their genes are paired with good genes from a good opposite parent, increasing the chance of their own genes surviving because they're mixed with good genes and vice versa. Now, think what that means in humanity. Or in the human species. That means, this is where it gets ugly. That means that a man in his 40s or 50 will be looking for a younger female because her chances of not dying and of being able to adequately supply in utero nutrients, to adequately suckle that baby, to adequately look after that child who bears dad's genes. It is in dad's interest to do the very thing that we would frown on. Now allow me to be an equal opportunity nasty guy. What do we say about a woman if she is seen with a Henry Kissinger, 75 years old, brilliant and everything else, but I haven't had that happen to me as I get old, but I'm not rich, that's the problem. She is seen as a gold digger, right? Going after the rich guy, and isn't that awful? Oh my God, how can she? I mean, just no more. What is she doing? She is ensuring that her genes are paired with genes from an individual who has proven that he is socially successful. It makes total sense, and it does not fit with our values. But those are the brainstem realities that I'm getting at, and I have to book here. I wanted to suggest to you, there are two books that to me have been the core of my attempts to understand life and, pardon me if I sniff, I'm not crying, honest. Life and where we came from. Number one is The Origin of Species, but the second one, and this is now about 41 years old, came out in 1976, The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. What he means by the selfish gene is that our bodies are simply the gene's way of staying immortal. The chicken is the egg's way of making another egg. And he suggests that we are all unconsciously hardwired to want what is best for our own genes, and therefore to be in competition with somebody else's offspring. So to come back to me feeling like a bad dad, there I was saying, it wasn't fulfilling. I loved them all equally. And that struck me, I'm sure, as part of me reading this at that same time. And because Dawkins makes the point, he says, our forebrain has evolved, the part that gives us morality, the part that gives us abstract thought, the part that enables us to grow beyond the level of a panther or whatever. By the way, if it's a panther, don't answer. Okay. We've evolved that brain should we not be evolving or allowing for forcing our behavior to evolve beyond that reptilian brainstem level, which is what drives most parenting? And that's what really is at the bottom of this thing. The two things, the importance of organizing your brain by organizing your words, by putting them in front of you, looking at them, wrestling with them, changing them, rewriting it over and over again. At the end of the day, you start to know who the hell you are. Point one. And point number two, can we not love every child? Can we not care about every child and the age, the gender, the color, the religion, the where on this earth? Do we have to only nurture self? It strikes me that we need to be better than we have been. And those are the issues that come up indirectly in this thing when we're dealing with questions of Corbett and a daughter who is akin to who his daughter would be now if he were allowed to see her, and his feeling towards her, her feelings towards him, how that works through, what the problems are, and all that kind of stuff. And it's trying to deal with this morality. Can we be a little better than just an animal? I would like to believe we can. I believe we are our brother's keeper. I would much rather give than get, because I get back when I give something that you can't buy. I get a sense that on the day or evening, night or morning, when I am still conscious but drawing my very last breath, I want to die in peace. And how will I die in peace? By saying to whatever it is, hey, I'm a frail human, I screwed up badly. God damn it, I tried. You can blame me for failing, but damn it, you can't blame me for not having tried. So I do things. I sit on boards and I tutor literacy and this and that and the other. And God, I walk out of every one of those sessions in that day feeling so good. It's a feeling you cannot buy. A Maserati won't give that to you. A 19-year-old blonde won't give that to you. A lovely speedboat won't give that to you. A yacht won't give that to you. But damn it, teaching reading to some poor bugger behind the 8-ball for whatever the reason was, God, I walk out of there in the internal level feeling like a giant killer. It's a feeling I don't know what to say. So that's the sort of issue that's in there. Where is our morality? What should it be? And is there a role for sorting through self by writing? And that's there, and I will now stop before anyone else begins to have a nosebleed because it's just too goddamn long. I'm sorry. So I've done it.